Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Oner podcast, the podcast where we break down and review films all in one big, long, unbroken take. I'm Austin Archer, and with me, as always, is my childhood next door neighbor and lifelong best friend,
Kramer, England.
Okay, and we are we are talking about A24's new surreal psychological horror film from 20-year-old director Kane Parsons.
Yes.
Backrooms.
My
outfit tonight is I decided to pick clothes that I thought you might pull out of the pile of laundry that his employee finds in the one room, where it's like if you went into a room in the back rooms that had a pile of clothes on the floor and you pulled two random it's like this weird tie-dye Fanta grape shirt.
That. Yes.
And then my hat is a Kevin Costner Modern West hat, which is
Kevin who?
Kevin Costner. It's his band, and it says Costner Modern West. And I'm like, I feel
nice.
These are two items of clothing that you would find in a pile of clothes in the back room.
They did. I think that's a good, very appropriate shirt and hat.
Yeah.
They did see a lot. I noticed this. The production design and the costume design was all very pattern based.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was, which I didn't do this on purpose, but this is probably kind of appropriate. But and it was all very 90s. Like all the patterns. Like, I don't know about you, but man, this reminded me of my childhood. The couches, all the wallpaper. It was like, wow, this is like growing up. Like, it reminded me of St. George. That's like all St. George furniture.
And the production design is doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing.
Exactly.
Which is giving you this sense of odd, uncanny familiarity.
Yes. And repeat. It's all with the theme of this repeating cycle. They're all kind of the same, and it's like, it wasn't on the nose, but I noticed it, and it was a great touch. Like, everybody did a really good job in this movie. I'm not saying Kane Parsons didn't do a good job. He did a good job, but everybody around him also did a really great job. And I think they just helped him to do better, which is perfect. That's what you want. You want great people around you. And he had great people around him.
Totally. And there's been a lot talked about online of like, well, did he actually direct this, or was it more like he was really guided? It's been really interesting to see some of his older collaborators go like, no, it was pretty much him. Like, we offered suggestions like we would on any set where we're acting in a producerial capacity, but we're still letting the director have control over the creative vision. And he very much so came in with a very clear idea of the kind of movie he wanted to make. And they've been in pre-production and development for this for 4 years, since he began the series on YouTube. And I mean, it's just before we even get into the specifics of this film, and we will be talking spoilers in a moment here. If you have not seen this in theaters, our unspoiler version, if you want to hear our general thoughts, is over on the channel now. You can go check that out. But this will get into spoiler territory. But just in sort of in general here, before we get into the plot details, I'm just like really excited about this movie and about where the film industry is at in general, this moment in the film industry. I'm really happy with the success of so many different YouTube and this is the big conversation everybody's having, right? Whether it's Zach Kreger or whether it's the Philippou brothers or whether it's Curry Barker or whether it's Kane Parsons, or even,
Markiplier.
Chris Stuckman, we covered his film, and Markiplier and Chris Stuckman's movies weren't as well received by critically, but still the fact that this pipeline is doing well, and is that unknown people who don't have mainstream industry connections are being given a chance to make original stories that aren't based on pre-existing IP. I mean, the Backrooms is sort of this weird nebulous thing where it's like, it's like the IP is kind of fair game. It's sort of like someone made this post on 4chan, and then it's like, do with this what you will. It becomes this internet creepypasta where everybody has their own little take on it. But it's sort of like, this is nobody's. I mean, if that original person wanted to come forward and be like, I own Backrooms and copyright it, I guess they could.
But it was anonymous to begin with. So it's going to be hard to really claim it.
Right. And the concept is just sort of this like a the original thing was like if you're unlucky enough to no clip into the back rooms. No clipping
Yeah.
is a
Yeah.
video game term that happens when game glitches and you like accidentally glitch into another
Mhm.
area of the map in the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's a very short description. It's like if you no clip into the back rooms, but
Yeah.
the essence of the idea was like this place that you know and you don't quite know how you know it. And in my opinion,
Mhm.
the way that we all know this place is we've been there in our dreams. Like
Yeah, yeah, that's a great description.
we've all been to the back rooms in some
Yeah.
form in our dreams. We've
Yeah.
all been in the back rooms and then realized we're being followed by something and we don't know what we're being followed by.
Right.
And we start to run and we look over our shoulder and we see like we see like a
Something.
shadow, a
Yeah.
shape, but
Yeah.
like we're just like, I don't want to stop to see more clearly what that
Yeah.
is. I just need to keep moving. And as I'm moving, the architecture is getting weirder and the hallways
Yeah.
are getting
Yeah.
narrower and now I'm climbing up to get to a doorway that
Yeah.
like it
Yeah.
we've all been there.
Yeah,
And
and it's like places you know that it is, but it doesn't really look like that place, but you know it's that place.
yeah,
Like, in your
I'm in my
right, and it
childhood bedroom, but it's
yeah,
not
but it's
quite my
not
childhood.
really that, but it feels
Yeah.
kinda like it. Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah.
a great it is re it's like a it's very much a nightmarish place, but not in the typical sense. It's a I loved how they described it, which is it's like something that's remembered, but it's not completely remembered. And then he says it's like trying to explain a dog to somebody and then having them draw it. It's not ever going to look
If they've never
real.
seen a dog
Yeah, if they've
before.
never seen a dog before, like
Yeah.
it's going to be kind of it's going to have pieces of the truth, but it's not going to be completely accurate. I thought that was a great way to describe the
I also
what
I
it
would
is.
I thought Kane Parsons was a writer director on this. I didn't realize that
Yes, he's not.
which I actually thought I was like, okay, that's probably and I because that was I've seen Kane Parsons a good amount of his YouTube series,
Yes,
and
I have seen
I
a good
was
amount as well.
I was pretty impressed with
Yeah.
just his world building and his
Uh-huh.
storytelling capabilities for such a
Yeah.
young person.
Yes.
But I was still like, man, writing like a really polished, solid screenplay is still really hard. I mean, God,
It
directing a
is.
movie is really
Very hard.
hard.
Yeah.
But I'm glad there was a collaboration there, but also I'm like, I'm not unconvinced that Kane Parsons isn't capable of writing.
No,
You know,
honestly, yeah, it's funny, somebody at work said that as well. They were surprised, which I was surprised. I thought he co-wrote it, but he didn't. But honestly, like, just because he's not on the credits doesn't mean he didn't help write it. And
sure.
it
I'm
really,
surprised he
like
didn't get a story credit because like it's
yeah,
still
well, it did say based on
right,
I
based
think it
on
did
the
get a base, which is kind of a story credit, but it is
it's
also different. Yeah.
in the interviews, he's talked about how, like, the entire idea is that this movie should map very neatly
Yes.
in with
Yes.
the established lore and world building of his web series,
Yeah.
which based on what I've seen of that web series, I haven't seen all of it, there's a lot.
No.
There's like 4 or 5 hours of content, and I
Yeah.
haven't seen all of it, but based on what I have seen, the movie did feel like it mapped pretty
Yeah.
neatly onto
Totally,
that.
totally.
So, and
And like you said, directing is super hard, and
yeah.
there's not many writer directors, and that's a very hard thing to do. And I totally get why he wouldn't want to write it, or he wouldn't want to edit it. Like Hollywood, one of the reasons Hollywood is so good is because so many different people are amazingly good at their track that they're
Mhm,
doing, right? So you won't see a lot of DP directors. There's a few.
mhm.
Steven Soderbergh, he's one, right? But like a lot of them just want like, okay, I'm going to tell you what to do and you're going to give me what I want and you're so much better at it than I am. I'm going to let you do that, right? And I get why he wouldn't want to write it, which whoever wrote this, I forgot his name. He did a great job.
Yeah,
And I think it's great that he was able to just kind of give that up and work with this person to make it. So it
yeah.
was a little surprising though, because I mean, also this is very similar to Obsession in many ways, not tonally at all, but it came from a YouTuber. It came right, and Curry Barker is a writer
The
director.
genesis of both of these films
Yes,
feels it's the fact that they're coming out like
yeah,
2 weeks apart from each other, and
crazy.
they're so similar and that, like, they're both
Yeah,
these young directors from the internet. But yeah, again, that gets us back into like, I want to just this moment that we're in is
Yes.
really interesting because,
Yes.
and people are talking about this, but I don't know if a lot of people are super aware that these movies are blowing Star Wars out of the water at the box
Yeah.
office right now.
Yeah.
And that's insane. Coming
It's
from where we
insane.
come from, which is that even all the way up until the most recent Star Wars release in theaters, which was The Rise of Skywalker, Star Wars has been an event at theaters, whether it's
Totally.
Solo, whether it's Rogue One, whether it's
Totally.
the 7, 8, and 9 trilogy. Anytime there is a Star Wars property coming out in theaters, it is a must see. Get your tickets, weeks in advance so that you can be there on opening night event. And Mandalorian and Grogu is being treated by audiences as like whatever.
Yeah.
I don't really need to see. I like what is it? Is it just another episode of the show? Yeah, I'm good. I
Yeah.
don't need,
Yeah.
which
It's not bad, but it's also not good. Like
and
it's not
it's
great. It's just right in the middle.
and it's certainly not something you need to see to like
No.
continue your understanding of the Star Wars lore and
No.
to make sure you're up to and also
Yeah.
like this is the problem with saturation, right? Is
Yeah.
the MCU could only remain an event for so long, and then
Mhm.
once it's now just collapsing under its own weight where it's just like
Yeah.
no one can stay up to date on all of the different shows, which by the way, like
Mhm.
there's good, like I watched uh uh one Mr. Wonderful Man. What is it?
Wonder Man. Wonder Man.
Wonder Man, and
Yeah.
that show was surprisingly so lovely. I really,
I've heard
really
it's great. I need to watch
fan
it.
really liked it, really enjoyed it. But
Yeah.
again, it's like, why? Like, so many people have no idea that it even exists because there's just so much Marvel
Yeah.
content out there, and that's why the last time there was really an event was Endgame because somehow they were able to sustain this like 22 film arc from
Yeah.
2005 to
Yeah.
2019 and keep people invested in the full storyline. I remember when
Mhm.
that movie came out, my partner at the time and I went and watched chronologically all of the
Oh,
MCU
wow.
movies in preparation for that
Yeah.
one to come out. And then when we went and saw that in theaters, it was like so monumental because it was
Yeah.
like the capstone of this amazing
Right.
TV show we'd been
Right.
watching. But
Yeah.
you can only, like any TV show that just keeps going and won't stop, there's always like you can talk to anyone and they'll tell you like when they stopped watching The Walking Dead. They're just like, oh,
Yeah.
this was
I can
this.
tell you when I stopped.
Yeah, I can tell you when I stopped too. Is the Negan season. I was like, I'm out of here.
Oh, when the tiger, that's when I stopped.
I
Anyway,
stopped
yes. We don't
after.
need to get into
Yeah,
that, but
yeah.
yeah.
It was after Glenn died, and then no one would kill Negan, and I was like,
Yeah.
I'm sick of this show. I was like,
That's the same season I left. It's
I was
like,
just
come
like,
on, you can't set something up and then
yeah.
not pay it off.
And
And
the
he's
amount of
living? What is going on? How is he still alive?
the
Anyway.
amount of times that they had like a clean shot at him and they wouldn't take it, I was like,
Oh, I know.
I'm
It's
I'm so
tough.
mad at this
I'm
show.
out of here. Yeah.
And I was
Same time.
already on thin ice with that show because
Yeah, yeah.
the main characters the show started doing things where it would have to like make its characters dumber than they were in order to
Yeah.
manufacture
Yeah.
tension, where they'd just be like, oh, so and so like was taking a whiz out in the woods and they accidentally got snuck up on by a walker, and I'm like, that character doesn't get snuck up on. They're like
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
expert hunter and killer. Like like they don't get they don't get snuck up on by the loudest monsters in the world. Like
Totally.
yeah,
Totally.
anyway, whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But that's, like anything that just refuses to end is going to eventually just become oversaturated to the point where
Yeah.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that it can be overstated how monumental this is, that was just reported that the box office at movie theaters had one of their best weekends since the end of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And it's on the backs of these two independent, low budget horror films
Yes.
from kids in their 20s.
Yeah.
And like that's really exciting and really cool for a lot of
Awesome.
reasons.
It's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
And
And I really hope that, I mean, here's the thing. There's going to be a lot of people who take away the wrong lessons from this.
Mhm.
They're going to just find some random YouTubers and give them money, and the movies might fail. Right.
I hope I'm one of them.
Well, that'd be great. But the wrong lesson to take from that is that, oh, it's people from YouTube. That's not
Right.
essentially what happened. These are good storytellers.
Yeah.
These are good storytellers.
Mhm.
Curry Barker knows what he's doing. He has good story sense, right? And Kane Parsons, he's made this whole thing. Like all these guys, the Philippou brothers, they have good story sense. So find YouTubers that already have good story sense. That's something you can take from it. If you just get a random YouTuber that has 60 million followers, it doesn't mean that they're going to be a good storyteller.
It might mean that their audience will show up and buy a lot of tickets.
Yeah, but even some of them, like if you make a bad movie, they're not going to show up.
Right.
Like it does not that many followers does not mean it's going to be a good movie. And a lot of people who have a lot of followers aren't really in the storytelling business. I'm not knocking them, but it's like if you get a lifestyle blogger, right, or something like that, that doesn't mean that they're going to be a good fit to make a movie, right? Like
Well, it's interesting. Like we covered Chris Stuckman's movie, and
yes.
I at some point someone was talking about Chris Stuckman, and they were like, the difference between what like the Philippou brothers and what Curry Barker's done is that they were making like short films and sketches where
Yeah.
there's writing and
Yes.
character and
Yes.
scenes with dialogue where like there has to be editing between characters and there has
Yes.
to be like a sound mix done to make sure that the whole thing sounds cohesive and
Right.
make sure that you're like, even if it's like a 3-minute long sketch, you're still like trying
Yeah.
to tell a story with the
Totally.
camera and with the characters. And what
Totally.
Chris Stuckman does on YouTube, and again, this is no shade to Chris
Yeah.
Stuckman at all. I like Chris Stuckman, and I was happy to see him get a shot at this. But like what Chris Stuckman has done for a long time on YouTube is he sets his camera on sticks, sits down in front of it, and talks for about 10 minutes about a movie,
Yeah.
and then turns the camera off. But there's no writing, he's not practicing the skill set of character development
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
building, and writing and beginning, middle, end, and carving out beats and editing. And he's not honing in on his filmmaking skills. He was
Yes.
just building an audience while
Yeah.
talking about movies and talking about movies, analyzing movies from like an academic or a critical lens is good. That's good
Yeah.
stuff that
Yeah.
to
That's what
add to
we're
your
doing.
totally. And
So
it's,
yeah.
I think it's good if you want to be a filmmaker to
Yeah.
start looking at
Yeah.
films more critically and more analytically, but that's only going to take you so far. Like you got to get your
Yes.
hands in the clay and
Yeah.
play around. And it kind of feels like Shelby Oaks was the first time that Chris Stuckman had played around with filmmaking since he was like a teenager. It had been a long
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
since he had like tried to make something.
Yeah.
And that's just it's kind of like I think the thing that Kane Parsons and Curry Barker both had going for them is they were like really immersed in making things
Yes.
regularly
Yeah.
as they were going into production for their films.
Totally.
So
They
yeah,
were already you get the filmmaking process. It's experience.
yeah,
Experience is an extremely important thing to have in the film industry
yeah.
because you learn and yeah, analyzing movies is very different than making movies.
Yeah, so talking about these two movies, by the way, just in the sort of the
Yeah.
abstract of this moment, I think it needs to be said that like first of all, both films are very well reviewed, but
Yes.
Backroom seems to be a little more divisive
Yes.
than Obsession. Obsession is kind of
Yes.
this like almost universal praise of
I
how
know.
well executed it is. And
Yeah.
even a lot of positive reviews for Backrooms, if you go look on Rotten Tomatoes and look at sort of what people are saying, even in the positive reviews, they're like, it's a little maybe too weird or too undefined for its own good,
Right.
or a little too heady. And they're still more critical. And
It
and
is.
but
It
but
is.
one thing I'm seeing online in like the short form video space of like Instagram Reels and
Mhm.
TikTok and stuff is people who are just comparing the two to each other and just going, Backroom sucked. It wasn't anywhere near as good as Obsession. If you want a good scary movie, go to Obsession. And it's like, don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't don't go to Backrooms expecting to see a movie that is meant
No.
to be compared to Obsession. They're not at all the same. They're not
No.
the goal of these films is not the same at all.
No.
It's
It's amazing how similar they are in situation behind the scenes
right.
and everything behind the camera.
Yeah.
There's so many similarities. It's kind of crazy. So it is cool to compare them that way. The movies themselves are, yeah, they're both horror, but like Obsession has a little bit more of a comedic
Yeah.
undertone to it, and it's also a completely different style of horror, a completely different style of movie, right?
Totally
So
different niches of that
totally.
genre.
And they're trying.
Totally.
I love what you said. They're both trying to execute something very different.
Right.
Like this, Backrooms is much more. It has. It's they're both trying to say something, but this is almost trying to say something a little bit more. There's a much more of a theme to it that's undertones of mental health and things like that. That are it's really now both of them I wouldn't compare as much to um, Get Out.
Mhm.
Like Get Out was really trying to say something and it
Right.
did an awesome job. Uh, Backrooms is more like Get Out, and
Oh, weird.
Obsession is not.
I would say Obsession has more in common with Get Out, just in the
I guess there's
I
similarities in both.
in Nikki being kind of stuck in the sunken place
That's
inside of a,
true.
you know.
That way it is, but like
Yeah.
Obsession isn't really like Get Out is so much about racism and
Right.
modern racism,
Yeah.
right? Like and that's what that's talking about.
But the
Uh
idea of losing agency over your own
yes.
body and
Yes,
everything like
that is
that, and
yeah.
yeah.
That's very very similar.
Yeah.
But Backroom seems to be talking more about it's trying to say something more a little bit about like mental health and like the loops that we go through. So
Mhm.
anyway, but they're different. They're very different. They're all three of them are all very different. So
Also, a criticism that I've been seeing for Backrooms from a lot of people is that they're just like I think there's a lot of people that have a very specific idea of what the Backrooms
yes,
is to them, because this has such an engaged fan base already built into it.
totally.
And when the movie doesn't deliver on what they think the Backrooms is supposed to be, they're
Yeah,
not satisfied with that. And that's, goes back to the thing we always talk about, which is like, the filmmaker does not owe you the film you think should have been made. Try to
yeah,
watch the movie that this filmmaker wanted to make with this concept, and see
mhm,
how you feel about that movie. And like, I think it's just, don't go watching a movie thinking like, I hope it's these things. You're almost always setting yourself up for disappointment if you
yeah,
have really specific things that you want to see or feel like you're owed
yes,
in a film's
yes,
execution. But then, there's this JJ Abrams concept of like the mystery box, and it's something
yeah,
that sometimes JJ Abrams can do sort of lazily,
yeah,
like in The
yeah.
Force Awakens, where he's just like, "Hey, I'm just gonna ask a bunch of questions and then hand it off to the next guy and go, you take it from here, chief," and just kind
Didn't
of go
work
like,
out very well.
right, and go like, "I don't really know what the answer to these questions is," like, but sometimes it's like, it's something like the rabbit's foot, where I'm like, I like not knowing what the
Yeah,
rabbit's foot is, and I think that's kind of fun,
yeah.
and I don't need to know what it is to
No,
enjoy Mission Impossible 3. This is a really good example of, to me, a mystery box film where I know just enough to
totally.
give me enough intrigue on what might be going on here.
Yes.
And Kane Parsons has said that he has an end in mind
Mm,
eventually for this
mm.
series. And personally, right now, from where I'm sitting, I'm not sure that I want to know what his if his end involves telling me in like a really definitive way, like what the Backrooms are and why they are and what they are
Yeah,
to him, I don't know that I'm super interested in that.
yeah.
I'm like,
I
you know what I
I
mean?
no, I totally agree, and
Yeah.
I said this to my son. I took my son to this movie. It was
Oh,
just me and him.
jeez. Did
I
it
know,
freak
right?
him
It was
out?
it freaked him out, but he was good.
Yeah.
He's gonna turn 13 this week.
Okay.
But he really wanted to go, and I was like, okay, we can go.
Yeah.
And it freaked him out. But we were talking about it, and I was comparing this. This is also another very similar to Stranger Things in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
It's something, a new dimension, and it's also very different, but thematically it's kind of similar in those ways. And I'm not, as we talked about, I'm not that satisfied with the ending of Stranger Things,
Yeah.
right? Like sometimes giving all the answers is not a good thing.
Right.
I'm hoping that the ending that he has is just a way to finish everything off. Maybe it's just, oh, the portals all get closed and they figure out how to do that, but they never really know what this Backrooms is.
Right.
If it's something like that, okay, I can handle that. But yeah, if it gives a meaning to every single thing and tries to explain everything, a lot of times that just doesn't work
Right.
out too well.
It's like, I am curious about a little more information on this company that built MRIs
Yes.
and
Yes.
somewhere in the process of building MRIs accidentally created some kind of magnetic field that
Yeah.
opened up a portal to this other dimension, and
Yeah.
then they became all about studying what that dimension is.
Yes.
I'm definitely like, "Hey, I'm curious about learning more about this," and there is a lot.
Yes.
If anyone out there wants to know more about this company, there's a lot more about it in the
Yeah.
series already that's on
Mhm.
YouTube. But
Yeah.
Caden Parsons has said that in his ideal world, he would like to finish this series with like a 9-part limited series that like
Mm.
finishes the whole thing. But I
Cool.
still am like, cool, I'd like to know maybe a little bit more, maybe plot-wise, like you were saying, there's like an ending point that feels like a
Yes.
satisfying place to say
Yeah.
that's enough. But the question of like, do I want to know specifically who or what is making the Backrooms and
Right.
why they exist? I'm not sure I do. I
Yeah.
think it's better left to my imagination. I think what makes it
Yes.
scary, I like I watched this video essay about The Mandalorian and Grogu the other day,
Mm.
and I loved this line. This guy said, "Star Wars captured my imagination as a kid, and now the best that it can hope for is to capture my attention for like a
Mm.
few hours, but it doesn't capture my imagination." And the Backrooms have captured my imagination in a way
Totally.
that not a
Totally.
lot of other films this year have captured my like,
Yeah.
the last 2 nights, my dreams have been all Backrooms. It's been like,
I've had last night I had it as well, yes.
I have 2 nights straight have dreamt all about Backrooms, and I'm like, "Wow, that is something for a movie to
Yes.
get into my psyche that much that, like,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
having, like, scary dreams where I'm running through the
Oh,
Backrooms."
that
And
sounds horrible.
yeah, and that means, I mean, I think, like, as much as I love the movie Inception, like, I don't know if I've ever watched a film that captures the feeling of a bad dream in the Backrooms better than
Oh,
this
yeah.
movie
Yeah,
did,
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
you
this
know?
is yeah, just the aesthetic. I mean, Inception
Yeah.
was great because it felt real and there were some dream things and like that, but this feels so much more like a dream. Just
Yeah.
I think because of all the weird architecture, the things that
Yeah.
you can't explain, but it feels just out of touch. Like
You think
it
this
very much feels
y
like that.
y you think they would consider nominating this film for production design?
Oh, I think they should probably. I mean, thinking about they made 30,000 square feet
Yeah.
of actual back rooms that people apparently got lost in.
The
Uh
people on the crew.
on the set,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
They got lost
which
in. Like
yeah.
and I
Can
think
you imagine how scary that would be
oh, that
to
would be
be like a
freaky. Like,
PA and just
guys.
be like, "Hey guys, can't find where is everybody?" Like on your radio going like, "Hey, can't where were we again?" And they're
Yeah.
like, "We're over in the pool room." And you're like, "I thought I walked to the pool room."
Yeah. How do I get there again? Yeah, like
Yeah,
it's insane.
yeah,
I think for sure it could. I mean, the aesthetic of everything is just also that yellow, right? And the buzz of the which is very, very much the back rooms thing. I think they did an awesome job. I think they could for sure they could for sure get nominated. I would be happy with that because they did a great job.
yeah. Let's get into
Yeah, let's do it.
some of the plot details. Spoiler alert. Again, we're talking
Yeah.
spoilers here, but yeah, this movie opens with uh a handheld
Yes,
sort of
found
found footage
footage.
sequence, which there are a few of these in the film. It's these are done really well in the film. They're some of the most effective sequences, scare wise. But
Yes.
it's also a great cold open for the film because I really like we get there's this weird thing where like this guy who is part of the research team at this company gets
Yeah.
separated from his other friends, and we don't know that, but you can sort of just tell from context clues that he was in there with other people
Yeah.
and now he's on his own.
Yeah.
He goes into a room and like we hear a crazy sounding noise that
Yeah.
turns out to be like a seagull that flies in. So he's like, okay,
Yeah.
if a bird got in here, maybe there's a portal somewhere because the back rooms are
Yeah.
full of entries and
Yeah.
exits to the real world. And so he goes looking for that. And when he goes and looks for that, a door opens up and something comes out of the door. We can't quite see what it is. And this is
No.
just how it goes in our dreams, where you're just like
Yes.
in a weird place. And then all of a sudden it's like, I don't know what that is, but I don't like it. And I'm going
Yes.
to run. And
Oh, and
there's that instinct to like be like, why would I not walk up to check out what it is? But you're just like,
yeah.
nah, I got to
No,
go.
I gotta get out of here. And
Yeah.
I love this is such a great use of found footage.
Yeah.
Especially, you know, just for some reason it just works because it's more first person and it just feels, I don't
It's
know.
like body cam footage almost.
Totally, totally. And
Yeah.
it really works well for this movie. And I mean, that was what the whole series was based on.
Mhm.
It was all found footage type stuff. So I think it's a great way to open. And I mean,
It's also
you
got that element of, like, the found footage thing that we talked about of, like, why is the camera rolling?
yeah,
Well, and
yeah,
if you can really
yeah,
justify that, it
yeah.
really helps to
Oh, it
amp
does.
up the
Yeah,
believability factor,
because
and the answer is really clear in this movie always. It's just like, well, if you're in that place and you've got a camera, turn it on.
yeah, like you're in
Yeah,
research, you're doing
yeah,
research, you need
mhm,
to film everything that you're doing.
yeah,
Yeah, totally. So it fits really well. He goes to this back, he kind of finds a room and then he hears it again and he sees the thing, he's running. I He runs into this room that looks like it almost looks like a travel agency room. Like it's like palm trees and stuff, like just
yeah,
wallpaper all over.
uh-huh,
But like I love this because he's stuck. He
yep,
goes in, he takes a wrong turn, he gets stuck, and he's like, "Oh," and then he goes this was such an effective jump
yeah,
scare.
uh-huh.
The jump scares in this movie, there's not many. I mean, there's a good amount, but relative, there's not many. But I felt like they were all earned. And
Kane's very good at for someone as young, and he's
yeah,
really learned this in the series at,
yeah,
like, where to point the camera and
yeah,
how to have it move around a corner and how to have
totally.
and to have it feel like the way that
Yeah,
you would wanna be like, "Okay, okay,
yeah,
I'm gonna check this way, and then I'm gonna sorta look around this wall." He does
yeah,
this a lot in the web series where, like, a person will
yeah.
be running from something, and then there will be, like, 2 hallways, and they'll, like, look at both of them, and
Mhm.
then they'll, like, go into one hallway and then, like, get stuck, and then they
Yeah,
turn around and there's, like, a blind corner that, like, the thing might be behind, and you can, like, see a shadow, and they, like, sorta, like, peer and it's like it's just
yeah,
he's
yeah,
he's learned how to
yeah,
use the camera really
yep,
effectively to,
yeah. And he turns around a camera, something comes out and then it drops, and I mean, the dude's dead, that's
yeah,
all.
and I love that again, I think this is a great opening because it's
Yeah,
giving us all of this context information. If you know nothing
yeah,
about the web series, the camera goes you get an opening really creepy sequence.
yeah.
Camera goes dead and we see the TV that we're watching it on, and when the TV goes to black, we see in the reflection a bunch of scientists who are just like watching the
That's
video.
right. Yes,
And
yes.
so it's like we know right away whatever this place is, there are people
Yeah.
who are studying it, who are
Mhm,
like there's like people in some official capacity who are watching footage, and that guy was likely part of this research team.
mhm.
And then we go into the movie, which is we've got this sort of therapy sequence with Renata Reinsve and
Yeah,
her patient played by Chiwetel Ejiofor.
yeah.
Gosh, 20 years old, and you got two Oscar nominees
Oh, I
as
know.
your leads.
I love Chiwetel. Like, he's such a great, I don't know, he's such a great actor.
He's fantastic,
And
and I
she was
also
awesome too. She
I
was awesome.
love Renata. I
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But and people have criticized the dialogue a little bit of sounding a little like maybe heavy-handed at times, but I'm like,
Eh,
I
yeah,
I I
maybe.
I I,
I
I was listening for it because I had heard people make fun of the screenplay, and I was like, it's really not that bad.
No,
It's
it's not like there's way worse. Like, there's
totally.
way worse. And I didn't notice it because I had not heard that.
Yeah.
And it never seemed to draw attention to itself to where I was like, "Oh, that was bad."
Yeah, I
L
didn't think
you
so.
know? I mean, you could have been written better. Well, yeah, probably, but it also could have been written way
Yeah,
worse.
all I would say is that it's like as she's talking to her patient and giving this opening monologue, like it's pretty clear to any cinephile, any film fan, like that the movie's themes are being stated to you.
Totally.
But it's like,
Yeah,
yeah, that's
yeah.
structure. Like that's just
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah, that's fine. Like, and
like
it didn't feel clunky.
yeah, no.
Maybe, like you said, maybe a little on the nose, but not enough to make it like, "Okay,
But
I get what you're doing."
right away, I'm getting so much, like, visual flair from
Oh,
Kane, like,
totally,
I
totally.
love this she goes to we see a shot of, like, her at her childhood home, and she's watching her childhood home be
That was weird.
demolished so that they can, like,
Yeah.
build a high rise, which the high rise they wanted to put in of condominiums also had, like, big Backrooms vibes. I don't
Oh,
know,
so everything
y
did. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
the outside world had total Backrooms vibes, like,
Oh,
in this
yeah, it
movie.
did. Well, and
This
I think it was every shot they had felt purposeful
Uh-huh,
to have a backrooms feel to it, because everything was
yeah,
repeating, right? Everything was
yeah,
repeated. Everything was the same, but just a little bit different, right? And I mean, what she says to him she is talking to, let's see, I forget her name. What's her name? Uh, in the movie, her name is Mary,
I was
and
gonna say
his
Mary. Yeah.
yeah, her name is Mary. His name is Clark. So
Yeah.
Mary and Clark are talking, and she says, I think this is the opening. Is this the opening line? Or no, this is later. But she basically says, we go through loops in our life and we keep expecting a different result, but it's always ends up the same, and we end up right back where we started, right? And this is, I thought it was a great way, but again, that's like, oh, this is the theme. This is what the movie's about.
Yeah.
And I thought it was good because that is essentially in the end, which we'll get to, that's essentially what happens. But you
Well, and
see
kind
these
of just
loops, and
this
so
question too of like, can people improve? Can people
yeah, can
change?
they
Can
change?
people, yeah,
Totally. And so the theme is stated, and then all the production design and the costume design fits with that theme
mhm,
because he's wearing his tie. If you look at the ties, they all have patterns on them. They're all pretty much the same, right?
mhm.
It's this loop and these repeating patterns. Everything had a pattern to it. Like it was kind of crazy. Like even the chandelier, or not the chandeliers, the wind chimes that they had there were three in a row at one point, and they were just a little bit different, and then they kept
Yeah.
showing up later, right? So I thought it was pretty clever.
Yeah. Yeah, but they're in a session, and then he's it's telling us things about our main character too, that it's like he's in therapy, he is
Yeah,
separated from his wife, he is, like he doesn't really, it's unclear if he wants to be in therapy, or if he's there because this was one of the conditions for him to maybe be let back into his home, is,
yeah, yeah,
and we're learning all this stuff too, where it's like he doesn't like where he works. He works at this furniture shop, and like it feels stuck there because and then
yeah,
we're learning. I'm not sure if this is in the first one or in this a later one, but these are what we learn from the therapy sessions. Is like he wants to be an architect, but he's sort of,
yeah,
and we also learn he's got a drinking problem and
yeah,
all this stuff, and
yeah.
that he's got an
Now,
anger issues, and
is the
but
is the furniture store, was it his? Did he open it? Is he do it? Like I
I'm
was
pretty sure it's
unclear
called
on this.
it's called Captain Clark's,
Yeah,
and
which he's
so
Clark.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
It's just I thought that was a little strange because I thought he just initially worked there. But anyway, that's not really a criticism of
I'm
the movie. It
I'm
just
pretty sure it's his, and
yeah, it is Captain Clark. I mean,
yeah.
it's just kind of funny. Like, why did I wasn't sure if he wanted to be an architect. Why is he designing furniture?
Yeah, I almost
Like
think
it was
what
a little. That's why
yeah,
I was initially like, oh, he works for someone else. But that's a slight criticism of the film. Not that it ruined the film for me, but it was just kind of a
the
little
way
weird.
the way I read it is like the kind of art, because like we see his architecture, we see the things that he
Yeah,
draws, and like
yeah,
it's pretty ambitious, the kind of stuff that he wants to make, but
yeah,
it also seems like so maybe he did have a few big commissions early on in his career,
yeah,
and then work wasn't picking up, because a lot of architects that do this kind of stuff he wants to do are going to be working on almost like a freelance basis, where it's like they need those commissions to keep coming
yeah,
in. They need people to keep hiring them and keep wanting them to design spaces for them in order to keep making money. And maybe his deal with his wife was they wanted to start a family. He didn't have any commissions coming in from the architecture. And with some of the money that he'd made from I'm like building this whole
yeah,
backstory, but
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
he could have used that to like purchase a store that's a little more like
Right,
steady.
consistent. Yeah,
That's yeah,
yeah,
something that feels like a better investment, or
yeah, yeah,
who knows? Maybe it was a like, here's what I'll maybe the idea at the time was this can be something passive. And while in the,
yeah,
that
yeah,
I can hire people to manage the store for me while
yeah,
and who
yeah, yeah.
knows?
It's
And
probably
then
something like that.
and then he just winds up being the manager of the store, and that's what he's doing instead of pursuing his passion. Um,
Yes.
but there's that too, of like the ways that that capitalism and the need to pay rent, the need to pay the bills
Right.
can sort of get you stuck doing something that you
Yeah.
didn't actually originally want to do,
Yeah.
but now
And
you're just sort of like you're in the
yeah,
loop,
you're in
and
the loop.
you're
And
yeah.
he is trying to pay for his wife's schooling.
Mhm.
She's what is she, was she
She's trying to
trying
go
to
to
be
law
at
school or
law
something, or
school?
yeah.
Yeah, I think yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so there's that, we learn a lot about just what's going on with him. In the early acts of or early stages of this film, we're just sort of getting to know primarily our main two characters. We learn that
Yeah.
Clark is living at the store. We learn that
Yeah.
Renata has a lot of trauma from her childhood, but she's, we watch her watch. I love this shot while she was watching her childhood home get destroyed, of her as a little girl, um, pressing her hand into the wet cement, and her
Yeah.
mom coming over the
Yep.
top of her, and then this crane with a bunch of junk
Dropping.
dropping it
Yeah.
on top of them, and that being the transition into modern time. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I just really like clever transitions
Yeah.
that you
Yeah.
don't see all the time. And it didn't feel like the movie was trying to like get away with a cheap jump scare, because it wasn't played as a jump scare.
No, it
It was
was
just,
kind of like, yeah. Well, because they used it a couple times,
yeah,
but it does, it's almost like reality comes crashing back, right? Which
yeah.
is great. I
I
thought it
felt
was
like it
great.
was more thematic
It
than,
was.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, this movie is shot really, really well. I
Yes.
think that uh there's this interview I saw with Kane Parsons that's really cool, where he was talking about this season of American Horror Story, where American Horror Story did the
Yes, I
Backrooms.
heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And their version of the Backrooms is like they just tried to make it really scary with like lighting, and it
Mhm.
looks a lot like Kane Parsons' Backrooms, but it's lit with like really low light and kind of like, flickering fluorescence,
Yeah.
and a
Yeah.
soundtrack that's really telegraphing to the audience like this is scary.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, I think that the thing about it is that it is it's the brightness of it.
Yeah.
It's the saturated fluorescent
Yeah.
light of it. And I just feel like the color grading and lighting
Yeah.
and production design of this film is so
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, he did. I read something as well similar, that was, he's saying that the horror comes from the simplicity of it,
yeah.
in the sense that it's all saturated, it's all wallpaper, and you become hyper focused on very small things,
Mhm.
which makes you go crazy.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of silent in there besides the humming of the fluorescence, and that makes you become more aware, and then you start becoming paranoid, right? And that's why it's scary, is because, and you're going into rooms and you get lost, and it's all the mundane that is scary,
Yeah.
not necessarily the scariness of, the flickering lights or all
Yeah.
that. So yeah, it's a similar thing, and that is what makes, and they do a great job of like, I really did love the scenes where he's just looking in the back rooms and trying to search
Ah,
around. It's just very
it's like
intriguing.
I honestly would have been like, yeah, make the movie an hour longer and let's just do like an
Just a
because
tour of the
because yeah,
back room.
obviously this movie really flies and like really
Yeah.
soars cinematically when we're in there.
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah.
of course it does. And I've seen a lot. That's a criticism that I've seen a lot of people make, where they're like, "Well, the movie's like at its best when it's in the back rooms. Everything outside of the back rooms isn't as good." And it's like, well, yeah, it should be at its
Yeah.
best
Yeah.
when it's in the back rooms. But
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't think that like like I don't think it's reasonable to expect that the sequences that are not in there should be just as
Right. Right.
interesting. Like it should be that, the movie Labyrinth should be more interesting when we're in the labyrinth than when we're
Totally.
in the girl's bedroom before we go,
Totally. Yeah. Yeah.
like I don't know.
Yeah.
But yes, speaking of like mystery box and like developing the plot, I do like this idea of him bringing this electrician over to the store to be like, hey,
Yeah.
what's going on with my lights? And the
Yeah.
electrician looks at his power box in the basement, and there's this weird thing that's very Backrooms-esque, where like
Yeah.
one of the switches is just, it almost just looks like a sticker that someone just like stuck
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
sideways, like it's like diagonal at the bottom
Yeah.
of all of these breaker switches.
Yeah.
And it's very strange, and there's an element to this film where it almost feels like the real world is not the real world
Yeah.
either.
Yeah.
But also like these are things that I think some viewers probably want more answers on. I don't. I'm
No,
totally cool.
I
we,
was fine not knowing. Yeah.
we never really figure out what the diagonal switch does, but
No.
it
But it also seems to be connected, like,
it seems like it's connected, like,
yeah.
maybe it activates the portal door in the wall.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
I don't know
Maybe
either.
I don't know. But,
Yeah.
like, who knows? Maybe every time you flip that switch, like, something in the back rooms changes.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
we don't know enough about how the back rooms work to
No.
know ho to even but I like knowing it's connected.
Totally.
And
Totally.
there's something even about just Clark's store that's just like similar to like in Stranger Things, like the way that Hawkins is just sort of connected to the upside down, that
Right, right. Yeah,
lights will flicker and stuff when something
yeah,
happens in the upside down, that there's this sort of
yeah,
element of like the electrical grid of
yeah,
Clark's
yeah,
store is being affected by
right.
this other
Yeah,
realm that yeah.
exactly. Yeah, and
But
I loved yeah. I mean, he's having a rough time, and his TV goes out, and he sees for just a brief second, he sees a feed that is in the back rooms, and he's like, what was that? Like, it's just in
mhm.
this random room. And then he sees the lights flickering on and off in his basement of the store, and he
He's
goes
sleeping in the
sleeping there.
store.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He goes into the basement and he plays with the light, the box, and he turns off all the lights. And then he walks over. I loved
It's
this
so
is how he
cool.
found the door. Like, he's just walking and he walks past his wall, and there's a thin strip of light, which you see in the trailer.
It's
I
like
love how
as
they
thin
cut
as
the
the
trailer short.
line between you and me right
Yeah,
now. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's just like, it's just looking at a door if it just has a little bit too much space between it,
Yeah.
And when he gets closer, it goes away, and he's like looking at it, and then he kind of goes up to it, and he falls through the door.
I liked every sequence with someone discovering the door. I
Yeah, I
like
thought it was great. I thought
we
it was
do it
great.
like 3 different times in the movie, and every time I was like, "I love this. This is so
Yeah,
cool."
it's great
It's
because
so
it's like,
cool. Yeah.
it's so weird. He puts his hand back through, and anyway, he this is the he starts exploring the back rooms from this point, and there's
Also, like,
furniture all over.
I'll just say this, from what we know about the Backrooms from the series and everything like that, Clark is so lucky that he makes it back out on this
Oh,
initial journey.
yeah, yeah.
Like, most people who fall into the Backrooms don't come back out.
No, no, they
And
don't.
so the fact that he makes it back out is, like, pretty crazy.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, he kinda gets scared out on his first journey in,
yeah.
but this yeah, like, the movie really picks up steam when he falls in here, and there's a big pile
Mhm.
of furniture, and it's a very
Totally.
weird space, and he's wandering around in there, and, there's the backwards stop sign, and there's
Yeah,
the cardboard cutout with this tape
yeah.
recording playing,
It's
and
interesting. I don't
and
really
I'm
yeah.
always wondering, like, did the researchers put that
Yeah,
there,
I
or
because they have a
is
yeah, they have a room
right,
full of them.
right, or is that something that the back room? And I again, I like not knowing the answers to
Yeah,
these
I like
questions.
it as well. Yeah.
Uh, Clark finds what I think is probably the bag of the guy from the opening.
Yes, that's what
Uh,
I figured it was. I think it was.
yeah, and it's, like, hidden behind, like, a panel. I will say this, I wanted a scene in the movie where I wanted Clark to take this bag out with him and,
Mhm.
like, watch stuff. I wanted, like, a
Mm,
scene in the
yeah,
movie
yeah.
where he, like,
He kinda finds out
watches
something. Yeah,
yeah, like, I
that could be
I just
interesting.
wanted to, like, see what was on some of those floppy disks
Yeah,
or
yeah,
VHS tapes in the bag. I just
right.
wanted to, like but, like, it's fine that it doesn't happen
Yeah,
because
yeah,
what winds up happening is Clark, he crawls through this, like, really, like, weird tunnel, and then he's in a weird room,
yeah,
and we see like a shadow moving back in the
yeah.
tunnel in the other room, and then something like throws the
Oh, and the
cardboard
the
cutout.
and the
Yeah,
other room is where the camera was.
right.
That's where
Yeah,
that he saw on his TV. Yeah, so he sees
yeah,
something throw it across the room.
yeah. The guy with the cardboard cutout, and then he's
Yeah.
like, and similar again. It's just like this dream logic of like whatever that is, I'm
Yeah.
not hanging around to find out.
No.
And Clark's very lucky here. What he's lucky about is that he manages to find like a route like through another little uh like series of tunnels that
Yeah.
take him into a room he's already been in. It's the room
Yes.
with the backwards stop
It's a li
sign,
yep.
and
Mhm.
that helps him go, "Okay, I've been in this room. I know how to get out of here." And he makes his way back to the wall, and this is the thing that you see from the trailer where he's like feeling on the wall to like find
Yeah,
the door
yeah, yeah.
again. Um, but yeah, after this, it's like he goes to see Mary and tell her about his experience, but it also seems like he has spent the entire weekend going in there like
Yes,
every
because
night.
he's mapped it out. He's
Yep.
like, "I've mapped it out," and she's like, you could tell I mean, he seems a little,
Yeah.
he's really wired
Yeah.
about it, right? And she's like, "I'm not saying I don't believe you, but this is a little strange, right?"
Yeah.
And he's going through something, and she obviously thinks that he's kind of having a breakdown or
He
something.
sounds crazy. He says
He
that there's
does.
there's like an endless uh
Yeah.
like world, a big office space underneath, like I guess attached to my
Yeah.
building somehow, and you have to like walk through a wall to get, it's like, but then
Totally.
he's like, I'm gonna prove it to you. I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna get proof. And so he goes back to get proof for her, but then he just is well, I also like this. He earlier on we saw him filming a commercial for his store with two of his employees, and they're using
Yes.
like an old handheld camcorder
Yes.
to
And
shoot
this
this
does
commercial.
take place in the 1990s. It's
Yeah.
1990, right?
Yeah, and it
Yes.
feels very, I really like the visual aesthetic and style and
Yes, I do
vibe
as
of the
well.
film. He plays, since it's Captain Clark's, he plays like this pirate guy in the commercial,
Yeah.
and that's important because
Which
that
I
comes up.
was
Yeah.
like, I was he's shooting a commercial with
Yeah.
them, and I was like, "Dude, you're too good of an actor. I don't believe this.
Yeah.
All the people I see on those type of commercials are horrible actors, and you're just too good at it."
I kind of thought the same thing. I was like, he's too good.
I was like, "Man, you're
Uh,
just a good actor. Like, you're playing a really good pirate. You gotta play
yeah.
a bad pirate."
Yeah.
These guys aren't good actors who do these furniture commercials.
Yeah. But
Anyway,
again, it's interesting too because it's like Clark's not the kind of guy who everything about his life is like not what he wants.
no.
He doesn't want to be making
Yeah,
that stupid commercial. He doesn't want
yeah,
to be, you know, but anyway, he gets his employees to come help him out. He's like, I need your camera. I need,
yeah,
because he wants to go in and film the back room so he can take a tape back to. But this is where I was like, I wish that he could have just gone in and grabbed that bag and been like, hey, let's
yeah,
look,
yeah,
but I think this is something where the screenplay kind of, I guess what we need to go with is that like whatever was chasing Clark out of the room on that first excursion, it destroyed the cardboard cutout and it probably destroyed the bag too. So
probably.
yeah,
Yeah.
because we never come back to it.
No.
But so Clark, but this is also like similar to Obsession, where our main character is a villain and is sort of revealed slowly to
Yes.
us to be a villain.
Yeah.
Clark's definitely kind of like a villain character in this movie.
Yeah.
Eh,
Well,
Like,
he ends up being, yeah,
but
yeah.
even like him pulling his employees into this,
Yeah,
like not
and
telling them like, "Hey guys, I'm taking you into like like
yeah,
a strange dimension in the
yeah.
wall." And
But the thing that I totally agree, but the thing that I thought was good is he's like, "I told you we're doing research." I believed him that he wouldn't say anything because would you believe anybody
no,
that like I found a back room, and
yeah.
but behind the wall, like he's just trying to get him to help him with something, and he's like, "Oh, I'll pay you 2 hours overtime," and
I
so
also do like that this screenplay, this is like this is the first time I've thought about this. I like that the screenplay made the back rooms in this movie literal back rooms of this store. That
yeah,
it's like
yeah,
they're like literal like extra rooms,
yeah, yeah,
which I think is cool. But yeah, so he gets like he's now like taped out a door, which I think is a fun little aesthetic. Like
yes,
that's
yeah,
very cool and just
it
very
is.
cool, fun imagery.
Mhm.
And his employees obviously think he's insane because he's talking about walking through the wall. But then it's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, once you see someone do
Yeah,
that, like,
yeah,
and they're both freaking out because it's terrifying watching
yes.
someone walk through a wall. And
Yeah, yeah, and this
I
is all from, again, the first person perspective from the camera, kind of
I
found footage style,
I
this sequence.
really like, again, there's so many different ways we do the portal wall, and I
Yeah,
love the shot of the camera going through and the way that
yeah,
like almost like the tech of the camera needs to like be like it almost goes through this like phase of like
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
before it can
Yes,
emerge. It's yeah,
totally.
it's a cool thing.
Yeah,
But yeah, then they go in and they're in the back rooms and he's showing them around and it's clear now that like, okay, Clark spent some time in here.
yeah, he knows a lot. He knows a lot of the rooms.
He's got a plan too. He's like brought rope because he found this area that he wants to go down and explore, but he can't because it's down to like a very steep shaft.
Yeah,
And so he has his employee they tie a rope around him and he's going to go down there and explore this
yeah,
lower area, and there's there's something down there, and but
yeah,
like
well, and there's just it's really dirty down there,
yeah, there's all
and
this
he does
laundry and piles of
yeah,
clothes, and this is
which
where we would find my
yes, your stuff,
but
and I
also we
did
find a
love
shirt that his employee
yes.
was wearing earlier in the
Exactly.
film.
I
Yeah.
was gonna say
Mhm.
earlier in the film, he's wearing that same shirt, And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, which we'll get into some of this later. But I thought that was a great little touch.
Oh yeah.
But it's obviously very creepy. And he's like, oh, I need more line. And they're like, oh, we don't have any more. And he sees something around the corner and it moves. And he's like, oh, he's like, pull me up, pull me up. So they pull him up and he's like, dude, there's something down there. Like, and Clark grabs the camera and just puts it on the bed. They have tied the rope to a bed that's just in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, geez, what was that? And like, he's like, what type of knot is this? And then the employee starts getting pulled back down. And
Yeah.
he's like, don't let go, like, please. And it's a great, I love this, like, great
This whole
scene because
sequence
it's
was
just,
was amazing.
oh, it
This
was awesome. It was
this
so
whole
great.
sequence was amazing.
Oh,
Like
it was very off-putting, very creepy.
this guy gets yanked down into the basement and he
Yeah.
is gone. Like
Yeah.
they go down after him, not
Well,
willingly. They get
the
shoved down the
yes, the
hole by the
bed,
bed.
and Clark
Yep.
grabs the camera, and there's a trail of blood that
And we
leads
see
to
this
the
guy getting
latch in the
like
wall.
sucked into there's like a
Yeah.
door that's
Yeah.
sideways in the wall. And then him and his female employee like takes off running. She's just
She's
gone.
trying, because
And
that's her
then
boyfriend. She's trying to
uh,
find him. Yeah.
yeah, so they get split up and now we're just, full blown Blair Witch Project, just Clark running
Yeah.
through the back rooms, running from whatever this thing is. We go through lots of different rooms that are sort of cameo things from the web series, but it's also just like the space is weird down here,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
this this moment when Clark goes into this room with the Christmas tree in it,
Oh,
and
it's
he
creepy.
walks around this Christmas tree, and it's like because it's dark and because of the handheld camcorder thing and the lighting, we're
Yeah.
looking at something and it's like, is that a person sitting in a
Yeah.
chair or is it like a
'Cause he
doll?
sees some mannequins. Yeah.
Yeah, and then like the doll like moves and turns a light on, and I was like, okay, but when it turned the light on, I was like, what is that? Then I thought like maybe it's like an
Yeah.
animatronic. Like I thought it
Yeah,
was
that's
like
what I thought
maybe
too.
like a puppet or something. But then just the I like the scariest woman just comes out of a corner in the room, like acting all weird, and it's
She's, like, walking like a mannequin. It's weird.
oh, it's so like Toy Story. It's so
It
like
is. It
weird, just like,
is.
and it's also just so like dreamlike of just like, ah, no, like
And
what,
he's like,
like
"Get away from me." Yeah.
yeah, and then so he like leaves that room and it runs, he winds up in this room that's sort of like a
Pool.
like a pool or a fountain. I
Yeah,
really
yeah.
like this detail where his employee can see him through a
Yeah,
wall. Like
yeah,
so wherever she is, it's like she's looking through a clear window,
yeah,
and what he sees is just a solid wall.
yeah,
And she's yelling at him going like, "Clark, I can see you. Can you not see
yeah,
me?"
yeah,
And then so like, and I love that idea that like they're just separated by a
yeah,
barrier, but for her it's glass and for him it's like tile. Like
yeah,
it's not
yeah,
just like a two-way mirror. It's like two
yeah,
different, and this is cool. And he sets the camera down. And as he's like talking to her, trying to find a way through, she goes like, "Clark, behind you, behind you." And
yeah, and
something
the
really
camera
tall.
lifts up, yeah,
Oh, it's so good. It's
and he just turns around, and then the camera cuts.
Yeah, but the idea that like whatever picks the camera up is like very big. It's just like,
Yes, yeah,
oh man.
yeah.
Like that whole sequence was so awesome.
It was a great, great sequence. Very creepy, very well constructed, and also just very well shot for what it was, for sure.
Yeah. And so then we go to
And that's
Renata.
that's really the midpoint of the
Yeah.
movie, is right there. And yeah, we fall. This is very interesting though. This is, I don't know if this necessarily, I mean, it worked, but it is kind of weird because then we shift. Clark is no longer really the main character.
Yeah.
We shift to Mary, right?
Yeah.
Renata, and she becomes, the story really becomes about her from this point on.
Yeah. I like that though.
It
I
is.
just
It works. It's
yeah.
totally fine.
I also so like yeah, we go see Mark Duplass at his home,
Yes.
and he's watching TV with
Yes.
his
That's right.
family,
Yeah.
and he sees Clark's commercial and he's like, we see on his face that he recognizes, oh,
Yes.
that's the guy that because we also saw him earlier in the film
Yes, we
watching
did.
Clark on
Yeah.
footage from the back rooms, and so he's like, he recognizes like, oh, that's the guy that I've been seeing
Mhm.
walking around in the back rooms.
Yeah.
But Renata goes, she hasn't seen Clark for a while. She's got this weird message from him on her voicemail, which this is another kind of
Yeah.
mystery of like, how was he able to call her from the back rooms?
Yeah.
But
Did
again,
he make it out and just go back in again? We
I
really
don't
don't know.
know. Yeah, maybe that's what happened. Maybe he went out the door, called her once, went back in. And I really like that by the time we catch back up with Clark, it is very unclear how long he's been in there because as far
Yes.
as we know, time in there could be totally different. He could
Right.
be it could be that he's been in there for years. It could be in that he's, we don't know.
It does
Um
seem like at the very least it's been weeks because he has mail that has
yes.
been piled up.
In the
And
real world, it's
in the real
definitely
world,
been
yes.
it's been a while.
It's
Yeah.
been yeah, it's been so like that, and because Renata's trying, Mary's trying to find him, and we do have a flashback of her backstory. Like she's a kid, and she just like is looking at this window, this big window that is taped with newspapers and stuff, and she like tries to peel it back, and her mom comes and says, Mary, don't look outside. Like there's tons of them out there, which made me think like, okay, did her mom go into the back rooms, or was it just that she was insane?
Yeah, I just felt like the movie was implying that she was raised with a mother who was in active psychosis, and that's why she went
Yes.
into mental health
Yes.
as a profession.
And
Um,
that's what I got from it as well. But I also, she says there's a ton of them out there or something in it. I don't know. Anyway, I think that is what it was.
there's also an element of like Mary is sort of medicating herself and about like her
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
has this whole like enterprise of like selling tapes and
Yes.
things to help self-help things, but she's also it's
Needs
unclear if
help. Yeah.
yeah, just like so many people, like
Yeah.
so many people who
Yeah.
are in that profession.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I do like the creepiness of her walking into this store that's empty, that with where the
Yeah.
doors just open, this big giant furniture store
Yeah.
in the middle of the day, and the doors just open and no one's in there,
Yeah.
and there's just a pile of, and it's like, and she's walking around and she kind of sees the lights
Yeah.
flickering in the basement, so she goes down to the basement. She sees the taped out door, and she
Yeah.
sees a fly through
Yes.
the door,
Yes.
and that's what makes her go like, okay.
Yeah.
So, and he said this thing in his voice memo mail or his voicemail to her. He said, "I went through the window and I won't be coming back." And that's
Oh,
something
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
she says in her self-help book thing. She says like,
Mm.
"There's a window." Something about like there's a window of
That's right. I did not catch that.
yeah.
I
Uh-huh.
was because I think he said I opened the window. Yeah, and I'm not yeah, 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 yeah.
I think he
It
says like,
was I
I
didn't
guess
realize it was referencing what she had said, but that's what the commercial, because she has a
yeah.
commercial on TV, and that's okay. That makes a whole lot more sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So she goes in after Clark to try to find him,
Yeah, she
and
goes through and she's like
first thing we
freaked out.
notice is that the furniture's gone.
Yes.
At which who knows who moved it? Did Clark move it, or did the pla did
Yeah, we don't know.
or do the back rooms just rearrange themselves every once in a while?
Yes. Yeah.
Is the perception of the back rooms just based on the memory of whoever is walking in?
Yes.
Was all that furniture there the first time because it was things that Clark were from Clark's store, and
Yes.
they're not there for her because but then it's like, I don't know, why is the stop sign there for her? Like,
Yeah,
why, like,
exactly.
who knows? I do just like the the weirdness and the mystery of
Yes.
this space. Pretty quickly, she finds like this graffitied wall that
Yeah.
that we find out is probably Clark has like drawn
Yeah.
this mural that's
Yeah.
sort of explaining like, but also again, it's like it kind of seems like he's been in here for a while,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, and he drew it, and
uh-huh.
it's this giant, like, pirate that seems to be throwing, is it a child up, or is it just a person? It's probably just a person. And
Yeah.
did you get to read? I couldn't really make out anything that it said.
I watched something this week where they said what it said, and
Oh, okay.
I can't remember what it said, but yeah.
Yeah, it's something that's like, okay, and then she looks behind her,
We
and we
hear
see
a
something
noise,
mo yeah,
yeah, but also I love this shot of it, like, this she turns
yeah,
around and you just see something just go and just,
yep,
like,
yep,
stuck, and
just move.
I love that,
Oh, I
and
love that
then
too, yeah,
and it's
it's
I
great.
love that it's Clark that he just sort of reveals himself, like,
Yeah, and he's like, "You're being too loud."
yeah.
And she's like, Clark, like, what's going on? They have an exchange. He comes over and he's like, just be quiet. But then he ends up putting her in a headlock.
He also
And
says, "It's okay, it's just me,"
yeah, yeah.
and
And
yeah,
I was wondering, I was like, okay, is this Clark or is this the monster? Like,
Yeah.
has it taken over him?
Yeah.
But I do think it was Clark. I think he just went crazy. He's been in there too long,
But
and
also
he's
like
lost his
it's
sense
just
on reality.
me is like I think he feels connected to there's
Yeah,
this weird connection between him and the monster
yeah,
because it is him,
it is.
but
Yeah,
it's the Backrooms version of him. And when it
yeah,
like when it turns on him, he's like, no, it's okay. Like,
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
he
yeah,
like
yeah.
as though he's been through this before with the monster.
Right, right.
He's
He's had interactions with it. Yeah,
yeah, he's learned how to
yeah,
reason with it, or at least
yeah.
he.
Yeah, because
But
she gets knocked out and she wakes up in this room. It's also a
mhm.
very weirdly shaped room.
I like that the ropes are blue and the tape is blue. That like
Mm.
the blue tape for the door outline and the
Oh
ropes
yeah,
that he
yeah, yeah.
brings in are blue. So like we've like the yellow and the blue stay
Yes,
as like a
yeah.
color theme and pattern.
Mhm.
But yeah, she's tied to this chair, and this is when the movie I really I maybe it's not for some people, maybe it's a little too weird, maybe it's a
I
little
think
too
it is.
David
Yeah,
Lynch,
I can
but
see that. But
I thought I loved this stuff.
I dug it. I gave into it and I
I
like it.
loved how weird we got in this
Yeah,
room. I
yeah.
just was like, yeah, like
It
you
was
gotta like,
yeah, it
yeah.
is very strange. I will say it's kind of he's been in there for a long time, but it happens very quickly for his character. Because last time we see his character, he's kind of neurotic and he's kind of like uh you could tell he's going through something, but when we see him now, he's like full blown psychotic.
I think that what is in the movie is that Clark was more dangerous than we ever really realized.
Yeah,
We tend to just sort of automatically give our main character
we
like
do.
and I think that if you go back, it's like he said from the beginning with her that he was like, I hurt everyone that I'm around, and I don't know if I
Yeah.
can stop doing that. Like I don't know
Yeah.
if I can. He goes, it's just who I am. It's just what I
Yeah.
do, and I don't
Yeah.
know if I can stop it. And when we're not, or when Mary tries to help him, when she tries to do role playing, he gets very angry,
He
and he
does
like
quickly.
and
Yeah.
also like we see he's got a drinking problem, and we see that
Yeah.
like when she doesn't seem to believe him immediately about the Backrooms, he gets angry very. So it's like
Yeah, it's
this
true.
is a guy who like I don't think it took much of a push to get him
No.
to, and I
Yeah.
think that like also when he goes and sees her after the Backrooms, the fact that he spent a whole weekend in there and that he's like obsessed with it immediately,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
already he's like pretty much like when he goes and gets his employees to go in for research,
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
already sliding into
Yeah.
the
And
yeah.
yeah, I think just for me, it took me a second to be like, okay, it is him, it's not the monster, and he is crazy.
Yeah.
And but I think on second viewing, it's not going to be a problem. The first
Yeah.
time, it just took me a second, and it went kind of quick. But everything you're saying is totally accurate. So on a second viewing, I don't think it would be a problem.
Yeah. But yeah, he's
Well, and
talking about
there's
these people, and
yeah,
he's sort of giving her his theory of the place, which again, I like the theory seems to map pretty well onto what we're seeing, but
yes,
it's like the idea is, and again, this ties into how dreams are, which is like he goes this he's like this place creates these rooms and these people that are in the room with us, the little guy in the chair who turned on
yes,
the lamp in the Christmas room, he's in the room with her.
yeah,
This other guy who we haven't seen yet
no,
is in there, and the lady from the Christmas room is in
yeah,
there.
and they
And
all
I'm pretty sure this lady is his wife, by the way. I'm pretty
see.
sure.
I didn't think so. My son thought it was.
Mm,
It very well could be. It
yeah,
very because he does. We'll get to it in a second, but
yeah.
I just thought it might have been because she was the one in the room in the Christmas.
Hmm.
She's the one who's walking like that, right?
Yeah,
And I feel like if it was his wife, he might have said something to her, right?
yeah,
Like if that's something that she wore, but it could be. But that's also I don't need to know the answer to that,
yeah.
right? Like
But I really dig the design of these
yes,
people. They've got
yes,
like multiple noses and like
yeah,
eyes right under their eyes, and it's
yeah.
sort of
There,
just this guy's shirt with like the weird like
yeah. The
collar
collar
and
is like
shirt
right
like
here.
over
Yeah,
here, and it's
yeah,
just sort of like it's like a dream brain trying to
yeah,
render things, and it's the way that
yeah.
someone will look at you with a face in a dream that's not a normal face, but you'll just sort of be like, that's close
It's
enough.
close enough. Yeah. Yep.
Or you'll know who it is, or when someone talks to you and that you're like, this is my friend Greg from middle school, only it's not. But
Yeah.
but in the dream, I
Exactly.
know that it is.
Yeah.
And And basically he's telling her, he's like, yeah, this place creates these rooms, and it also creates
Yeah.
these people. And he goes, well, it's more like it remembers them. And he's
Yes.
like, so it's like a memory, and every time you replay the memory. And so there's also this cool transition where after he chokes Mary out, we do this thing where we go
Yeah.
down and we
We
go
keep
through the
going down
levels,
levels. Yeah.
and we're seeing the sort of like decay of the memory of these
Yes.
rooms. And
Yeah.
we see like Mary's childhood home, and we see that later on, but we see like how that goes from being what it was when as she first remembers it, and then the more she remembers it, the more it morphs into something else, and it changes into
Yeah.
something else. And sort of the idea, I just think that like the idea that the back rooms are a dimension of memory is really interesting. That it's like
Totally. And
you step into like where memories exist
yes,
is
and it
interesting.
does seem to be, and we can get into more of this later, but it does seem to be that when someone enters the back rooms, it's bringing in their memories,
Sure.
and it's expanding on its own,
Yep.
right? Because the employee goes down and his shirt is there. So
Yep.
like, oh, this is your memories now.
Yep.
And we see a lot of stuff from Clark's memory that is throughout the back rooms, and you start seeing things from Mary's memory that are coming in. And obviously in the end we see that, but it seems to be a memory, whatever this, the back rooms to me seems to be an entity of some living thing that is just trying to fill it with people's memories, right? Or something like that.
You can get really trippy and philosophical and ask the question, like, would the room look the same if someone else that's down the shaft that the employee goes down to, that has all the
Yeah.
laundry in it and has his
Yeah.
shirt in it? Would the room be designed differently if somebody else went into it first?
Yes, it's a
You know,
great
like,
question.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
I
if
don't
the
know.
other employee went down there first, would it look different?
Yeah.
Or like does the
Yeah.
environment respond to who? It's similar sort of to like the environment of like the shimmer in Annihilation, where,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
and I like this about the back rooms too. And Kane Parsons has talked about this, that it's like it's not really a place with like an agenda. It's not like
Yes.
malicious or like,
That's what I get the feeling of it. Yeah.
yeah, it's not like evil. It's just
No.
but it does do stuff. It
Yeah.
does
Yeah.
sort of, yeah. And
Yeah.
but yeah, she's in this, he's trying to explain it, and he's like, do you like these people? Look at them. He's like, the best part is that they don't feel pain. And he
Yeah.
stabs this guy in the neck with a
Yeah.
knife. And then he goes, and the coolest part is you can eat them. And he
So
carves out
weird.
part of this guy's stomach, but it's like stuffing, like from a
Yeah,
couch,
it
like,
looks like a couch. Yeah.
which is also like, why would you eat that? And would it
Yeah.
be,
Yeah. And but there is like some sort of goo in it, like because he pulls
yeah,
it out and it's like anyway, yeah. Yeah.
it's just a very weird.
Very
But
weird.
yeah, this woman that was in the Christmas room with she's got noses all over her face, and
Yeah.
she's very
Yeah.
weird looking. And he tries to do the role playing exercise again with
Yeah.
Renata, because he's like, I want you to tell me I wasn't
Oh
wrong, and I
yeah.
want,
Well, and he scalps the woman
yeah,
and he puts her hair on, puts the weird woman's hair on Mary's head,
because she's
which
got the
again,
same color hair as his wife. Yeah.
yes, yeah.
Mhm.
Whether, and maybe it is his wife,
Yeah.
but it's, and he does the role play and
Yeah.
he's very serious about it. But
Yeah.
I
But
did love the response that Mary has, because she stops being a therapist and she
mhm,
starts telling it like it is.
yeah.
She's like, you're an idiot. Like this
And
is all your fault.
you're a whiner, you're a victim, you're,
Yeah.
you just, yeah, like, you
Yeah.
just, rather than actually just doing something different, you just complain, you do the same thing over and over again and then complain that you don't get a different result.
Yeah.
It's the loops thing. And like,
Yeah.
and you're the source of all of your problems. And as she's explaining this and sort of trying to like get I can't remember how she gets out of the ties, but
Well, he's like, well, for the first time, I feel like I'm meant to be here. And
yeah,
she's like, he's like, I don't think I want to change. And she says, well, don't just
yeah,
be
oh
here.
yeah, that's right.
She's like, just be here.
That's fine.
Don't
She's like, but I don't want
change.
to be here.
But I
So
don't. Yeah. And
yeah.
so he goes up and he's got the knife and then he kind of turns it around and he unties her one hand.
Mm-hmm.
And then as that's happening, you hear something coming.
Yeah.
And this is when we get the reveal of the monster, like the full reveal of the monster. It walks through the door and it is Clark, but it is a big, lanky
It's like
pirate.
a 8 or 9 foot tall
Yes.
of him in the commercial for Captain
Yeah.
Clark.
And I mean, it looks like him, but his eyes are huge and he's got a big face. And it
I
was,
thought I thought the execution of this thing was like such a like strong effect. Like
I agree. I totally buy into it and I really liked it.
it didn't read as like overtly computer animated to me. It
Well, I
didn't
don't
like
think
it
it was. I think a lot of it was
practical.
practical. Like
Well,
it's
it's
a,
cool.
it
Whatever it
is
is, it's
cool.
very cool. It's
Yeah.
and it's
And
also just like the kind of thing that's like because it took me a second to be like, what is that? And
yeah.
then once I
Yeah.
realized like, oh, it's him as the pirate, and then I was like,
Yeah.
but also like, geez, that's scary. And
Yeah.
I imagine that that entity takes lots of different forms.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah,
I think it's taking his, it seems to be his insecurities.
yeah,
It's him as a pirate, which he doesn't want to be a pirate.
yeah.
Like, that's not what he
He
wants
doesn't
to
want to be
be.
Captain Clark. He wants to be the
No, and he's
Clark, the famous architect. Yeah.
exactly. And he's got like big eyes that seem like he's, it just seemed like all of the things that he doesn't really like about himself
Hmm.
in
And he gets
an actual
consumed by
form.
his own
Yeah.
by a manifestation of his own insecurities.
Yeah.
And while he's getting eaten, Renata sort of or Mary sort of takes that opportunity to escape that
Yes.
room.
She
But
does.
she comes out and she's in like a neighborhood that I mean, I love so much of the design of this film. It was so
Oh yeah,
cool.
it's great. Yeah.
And this whole chase sequence was riveting to me.
Oh,
Like
totally.
her
I
being
yeah.
followed by this and the way that like these entities can always be right on your heels no matter how
Yeah.
much space you seem to put between you and
Yeah.
them and even if they're not moving that fast and this room that she goes to where there's the big like hall of all of
Yeah.
the infinite doors with this staircase that's going up to a door that I just thought
Yeah.
all of this was so cool.
Yeah, it's
And
very creepy
yeah.
and it's punching through the door and it's trying to get to her. And I did think, because I do feel like the monster takes on the form of whoever's in there, or if it has interaction with the people, right? Or a certain amount of time. I did feel like the monster was going to transform into her mother.
Oh, that would have been interesting. Yeah.
I thought like, oh, if it's him,
And
that's kind
he's
of his
dead now.
insecurity, and that's what he has to overcome as his own problems. But he
That would
doesn't
have
want to
been
change. So I thought,
yeah.
oh, this would be her mom, but
Yeah.
it didn't, which is fine. But it was crazy. So she goes up and she actually, it seems like the
I
further
like
up,
I like how visible the monster is too.
yeah, me too.
I
I
just
do.
like that it's just like there and it's
Yeah,
just yeah.
but they don't
Mhm.
show it for long periods of time, but they do
But
show it.
when we're up in the store and it's just walking across the store
Yeah.
toward her, I just was like, I like how like wide this shot
Yes.
is and how
Yes.
like how much
Yeah.
we're just forced to like
And
deal with it.
yes, and
Yeah.
the person who played the monster is the same person who played the new alien in Alien Romulus.
Oh, cool.
So it's that really tall guy. Is that Robert Bobrakitsky? I can't say his
Cool.
last name. I'm sorry, but he's a very tall person. He's very lanky. So
Mhm.
they use him to. Unfortunately for this guy, he's just always going to play monsters. Like
Yeah.
I'm
Hey,
sorry, but go for what you can, man. Good
I
for you.
I know a couple actors that are in that niche and they don't mind it. And
I
it's like
honestly, he's probably getting paid good,
yeah,
which
it's
is
not a
he
bad niche
should
to be
be.
in.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
good for you, man. Like there's the guy who played Predator. He played
Yeah.
Harry and the Hendersons. Like he just played the tall characters. And
Yeah.
if you can make a living for it, that's awesome. But he's the one, and I love how it moves so strangely,
Yeah.
right? And like it seems like when she goes up levels, it becomes more and more accurate because she goes up into the store
Mhm.
and it almost looks like it's the normal store, but we can
Yeah.
tell that it's not. But she tries to open the door, but there's just there's nothing behind it.
Yeah.
And she ultimately does trip some sort of alarm, and all this gas starts pouring into the room, and the monster gets on top of her and is trying to kill her, but she's been carrying around the hand from the concrete.
Mhm.
She pulls that out and she starts stabbing the monster. It does
Yeah.
start bleeding, and she finds that little crevice and she goes into it, which you see in the trailer.
Yeah, she's crawling through this, which is also just very dreamlike, and that's
Yeah.
it's one of my favorite shots from Inception too. Is
Inception is
even
very
though
Inception.
it's
Yeah.
like he's supposed to be awake in that moment, but it's a very dreamlike thing to be like
Yes.
in a hallway that's
Yeah.
that keeps getting narrow and
And it can't reach
narrower.
her. It's
Yeah,
like close, but it can't
uh-huh.
get to her.
But this is a really fun kind of like way to resolve the film, which is she runs into a team of the researchers, and
Yeah.
they all, like they're sort of like her saving grace.
Yes.
They're the thing that saves her from the creature, but they even in this space where they pull her out to, when she kind of wakes up in this space, did you have the feeling of like, are we still in there?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I still had I just was like, "Are we out or are we still in there?"
Yeah. Are you
But
still
she
in?
has
Yeah.
this kind of final confrontation with, like, or this meeting with Mark Duplass, who, like, tells her, he's like, "Hey,
Hi, I'm Phil.
yeah."
It's
And
like,
he sort of explains to her, like, "Listen, I'm gonna tell you everything I can." He's like,
yeah.
"We were a company that made MRIs. We don't do that anymore. Now our main focus is studying that place that you just came from."
Yeah.
And I just like that he's like, he's sort of explaining it to her, and as he is, his voice just sort of fades out, and we just go down through the floor, and we just go back to we sink
Yeah.
back to. But I like that he's like, "We've come to believe that whatever's going on in that place, it's probably like the most important thing for
Yeah.
us to study as a
Well,
species."
and
And
I loved this fact that he is saying he sounds very, very similar to Clark.
yeah.
He's saying the same things like we've barely scratched the surface, and this is could be one of the most important things, right? And Clark is saying things like he's saying very similar things, and it's again the theme of we go in these loops and we expect different outcomes, but we end up doing the exact same thing, and he is basically saying the same things as Clark.
Yeah, it's
And
like, what do you really expect to find going and exploring
exactly.
infinite levels of memories?
Yeah.
And it's just like
Yeah.
like it's almost like the entirety of the Backrooms is just backward movement. It's just like
Totally.
you can't progress, you can't move forward going
Totally.
in there.
You just get
You're
lost.
you're gonna get sucked deeper and deeper and deeper
Yeah.
into a vortex of your
Absolutely.
own
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and it
fears
does,
and yeah.
yeah, it does start going down the levels, and you see all the different scenes from the real world,
Mhm.
like where the couple was and the stuff is
Mhm.
sunk into the floor, and you go down and down, down to where Mary was sitting in the research room, and you see a woman, and it's Mary from the back of her head, and then it cuts to her, and she's got eyes over here, and her hands have about 7 fingers, and then that's the end. That's the end, which
Awesome.
oh, it was
I
great, it
loved
was
it.
great.
I
Oh,
just
I
was
thought it
like
was
I was like,
great.
"Awesome." So now
Enough
there's a weird memory version of Mary walking around
Yes,
in the
and
back rooms.
I have a kind
Yeah.
of do you think that's Mary, or do you think that's just a version of her?
I think it's just a version of her. I
I am
think
in that
it's
camp too.
yeah, I think that whatever is created by the Backrooms is it doesn't really exist. It's
Yeah,
just but it does and it doesn't.
yeah,
In the same way that, like, the dream world does and doesn't exist. Like, in the same
exactly.
way that, like, if I picture my childhood home right now and I walk around in the basement of my
Yeah,
childhood home in my head, it does and doesn't exist. It's like
exactly.
it's a
Yeah,
real thing that I can see, but yeah,
yeah,
I d
totally.
I again, like I said, my dreams the last 2 nights have been all about this. I I can sorta see why a lot of people are getting to the end of the movie and just going, "What?" Like, just
Yeah,
going like, "Huh?" But I'm like, it's just my kind of movie where I'm like, I feel like I have just enough to
totally,
get
totally,
like just enough stuff to be like, okay, I have just enough to have some idea of what I just watched, and I don't want any more than that. I want to leave the rest to my imagination.
totally.
And
And I am very satisfied. It has a lot of unanswered questions, but nothing that I needed. It's all kind of I can fill in the blanks, right? Or I can infer in things, and I really liked it. I can see if people don't love that. I can also see if people think that the monster might be a little. I mean, it is
yeah,
kind of
I guess people
funny,
just
but
wanted something more traditionally scary, but I'm like that
yeah,
again. That's like you want the wrong movie. Like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
you want a movie that takes place in a haunted house and has like
yeah.
a really
Scary
scary
monster with
monster with
teeth.
sharp
Yeah.
teeth. Like
Which I mean, when he because the monster picks the guy up like a baby, picks up Clark and bites into his neck, which I was like, "Oh my
I
gosh!"
think
Like
the monster's terrifying.
that was terrible. My son was like,
Yeah.
"Whoa, dude, bro, what's going on?"
Yeah, no, yeah, no.
So
Taking something that looks relatively non-threatening or mundane and just turning it into something. I don't know. I
I
love
totally
that
dug
stuff.
it. Yeah, I dug it.
Yeah. So, okay, let's get into scores. So we score films out of 10, 10 being the best. We give a score for just the technical rating of the film, just the craft of the film, a score for the ending, a score for rewatchability, a score for cultural impact and significance, and our subjective score for. So, Kramer, what is your technical rating for Backrooms?
My technical rating is a 7.5. I could possibly go higher because of production design. Maybe I need to go higher. I don't know. Like, production design is so good and the acting is great. This is a very small nitpick. It's going to sound worse than it is, but I could tell that this is Kane Parsons' first movie. That's not saying much because he still did an amazing job. But there are a few things that I was like, oh, you might have wanted to put an insert in there. Or like you might have there's just a couple little things that like,
Sure.
oh, there could have been a couple things that maybe made this a little smooth. And there's a couple things like in the, just a couple little things with the movie. It moves a little slow and some of it is, but it's also done very well. So I don't know.
I gave it a 9.
Oh, wow.
I think
Nice.
this movie is going to age really well. I think it's going to continue to be a movie that really captures people's imaginations for years to come. I think that what the challenge of something like this and how it was
Mhm.
met, I like it's just something where
Yeah, very true.
I'm like, how much more can you expect from a film that is based on like a 2 sentence idea from a 4chan
Yeah,
post, and the
true.
execution of like something that it's so uncanny and feels so. I just was very, very impressed with it.
It is.
How about the ending?
The ending I gave an 8. I mean, it was scary and it
Mhm.
it worked. I know this isn't technically part of the ending, but the change of main characters is a little jarring. But it's still I think it's very satisfying for me personally. I love that it's leaving a lot of questions and I hope that they make another one.
Yeah, me too. I hope they make more. I gave the ending
Yeah.
a 9. I
Nice.
felt like everything from the monster walking in and picking Chiwetel up like a baby,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and all the way through to the ending was I was just riveted. I was, and I thought like seeing Memory Mary down there
Yeah, at the
deep in
end.
that was
Yeah,
haunting and
it was.
terrifying, and
Yeah.
the idea questioning like, yeah, sure, these are like weird little memory creatures, but do they
Yeah.
have thoughts of their own? Are they,
Well, oh, and one thing we didn't
yeah,
say, right before the monster come, the woman, the memory in red, she
yeah,
runs into the corner and is like trying to get out, which was also super creepy.
yeah,
So it does raise the question, yeah, do they have the memories? Are
mhm,
they actual beings? Like what? They can't really interact because he asks them to do things and they don't do them.
yeah,
But yeah, what are they? Do they have feelings? Do they have something? So
yeah. Rewatchability, what's your score?
rewatchability, I give a 7. It's a slow burn,
Mhm.
and I for sure want to see this movie again, but it's not one that I'm gonna put on repeat and just like enjoy watching. I'd need to be in the mood, and I'd want to watch a scary, an off-putting movie. But I still think it's high enough for sure.
Yeah, surrealist movies are like a tough bet because it's like not
Yeah,
everyone wants to watch them. Not everyone wants
yeah,
to watch something like this. I feel like this is a movie I'm gonna come back to, uh, like for a long time. I think as for like
yeah.
inspiration and stuff. And so I gave it an
Nice.
8, but it is one of those things where it's like I don't know how many people are gonna like want to watch
Yes.
Backrooms with me,
Yeah.
and but I feel like I'm gonna be coming back to it.
Nice.
How about cultural impact and significance?
Cultural impact and significance, I'm giving a 9. And honestly, maybe it needs to be 9.5. I mean, this is first of all, it had a huge following before.
Mhm.
Just Backrooms in general, it's a very interesting thing and very internet culture, which is good. But this movie is hitting on it. I mean, as a movie, it's made a ton of money off of
Yeah.
a very small budget comparatively. Like, and this is, as we talked about at the beginning, this is a big moment. So I think it's pretty important. I think it's going to make it's going to inspire a lot of people.
Yeah, I gave it an 8.5. I could also probably bump it up to a 9, because I mean, this is movies like this are why we have the category of cultural impact and significance,
Yes.
because it is when a movie has an impact like this and this moment that we're in, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's why we have that category. But yeah, we'll have to see with time if it has the staying power. That's why I had it at like 8.5 is like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like it could be a 9. Not sure. Right now, it's
Yeah.
definitely doing well enough for 8.5. How about your subjective score?
My subjective score is a 7.5. I really like this movie. It is funny because we saw it so close to Obsession, and as we said, they are different. I enjoyed Obsession a lot more. I enjoyed this movie, but it's also like they're so different
Yeah.
because Obsession, I was just engaged the whole time. This is a slow burn, which is great, but also like sometimes the slow burns is kind of like, all right, let's move it along, or it just, you have to be in the right mood. Luckily I was in the right mood, but it's also going into like the rewatchability and everything of it. But this was a really great movie, and honestly, after thinking about it more, I just saw it last night,
Yeah.
so it probably will go up with time.
Yeah. I've got it at an 8.5 right now. I think,
Nice.
yeah, if I'm doing the Obsession Backrooms comparison, which again, yeah, very different films.
Yes.
But if I'm doing it like for me, this is a little bit more the kind of
Yeah.
again, I think it captured my imagination a little bit more
Totally.
in a
Totally.
way of like, oh, like I feel like what Obsession did was it did a lot of formulaic horror things really well. It did a lot of things that we've seen
Totally.
before really well. It
Yeah.
executed a lot of like tropes and stuff that we in it, but it did them very well. This was something where it was like, oh, this is like you're really stepping into a lot of like new territory, and people
Yeah.
keep using Lynchian, which is like something. It's like there's a reason why people don't try to make movies like David Lynch made them. It's because David Lynch's films aren't particularly like easy or fun to watch. They're
Yeah.
like very weird almost to a fault.
Mhm.
And I actually think that the fact that this movie manages to toe the line of
Yeah.
that surreal feeling and still be very engaging and cinematic uh and exciting is something really special. So
Totally.
yeah,
Totally.
really enjoyed this movie. What did you guys think of Backrooms? Let us know in the comments. Like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Next week we're doing something completely different.
Yes.
We're going to go watch Masters of the Universe in theaters. So go watch that
Yeah.
with us. If you can watch our episode on the 1987 Masters of the Universe that we did
Yes.
a while back with Dolph
Yeah.
Lundgren, if you want to,
Yes.
do a little double dip and then watch that movie with us, and we're gonna come, we kind of been going back and forth. We did Obsession, The Mandalorian and Grogu,
Yeah.
then Backrooms, and now He-Man.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Great.
All right. And that's it. And we'll see you next time.
I have the power.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.